From congratulatory to fearful, world leaders and citizens in countries across the planet have expressed a wide range of opinions on the news that Donald Trump has been voted as U.S. next president-elect. In Moscow, President Vladimir Putin sent in a congratulatory note saying he hopes they could get the U.S. and Russia relations out of crisis.
As I have already said many times, it is not our fault that Russia-US relations are in the state they are in now. But Russia is ready and wants to restore full-fledged relations with the United States.
Australian Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull sent in a congratulatory message to the new US President-elect.
On behalf of the Australian Government, I offer my congratulations to President-elect Donald Trump on his historic election victory, of which he has just spoken moments ago in New York.
Throughout his campaign, Trump pledged to take the U.S. on a more isolationist America First path. His position raised the possibility of damaging relationships with America's most trusted allies in Europe, Asia and the Middle East. Although Trump vowed to renegotiate the Iran nuclear deal, Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif is calling for U.S. President-elect to stick to the international agreement and stay committed to the multilateral nuclear deals.
As far as the Islamic Republic of Iran is concerned, since Iran and the United States haven't had political relations, what is important is that the future U.S. President-elect is obliged to stay committed to this not bilateral, but multilateral nuclear deal.
And in Berlin, where German Chancellor Angela Merkel's defense minister described the news as a huge shock. French President François Hollande also sent in his congratulatory messages, but warned that the results will open up a period of uncertainty.
I congratulate him, as is natural between two democratic heads of state. I am thinking of Hillary Clinton, with whom I worked during the Obama presidency. This American election opens a period of uncertainty. I have to face it with a clear head and clarity.
The presidency will be Trump's first elected office and remains to be seen how it will work with Americans and the rest of the world.
The country needs a sense of unity, a sense of inclusion, a respect for our institutions, our way of life, rule of law, and a respect for each other. I hope that he maintains that spirit throughout this transition, and I certainly hope that's how his presidency has a chance to begin. So this was a long and hard-fought campaign. A lot of our fellow Americans are exultant today. A lot of Americans are less so. But that's the nature of campaigns. That's the nature of democracy. It is hard, and sometimes contentious and noisy. It's not always inspiring. But to the young people who got into politics for the first time and may be disappointed by the results, I just want you to know you have to stay encouraged. Don't get cynical. Don't ever think you can't make a difference.
Welcome back. Continuing our conversation with Dr. Pearse and looking at this election and how it turned out, there are many who wonder, are we seeing a trend here? Because while a lot of people were surprised, it just turns out that the polls themselves were wrong, and I heard them asking, how did they get it so wrong? So it looks as though, look, even though the polls could say one thing, they just kept on going. From your experience, having vied, could it be that, yes, you'll have people who will say, fact, say all you want, poll all you want, they made up their minds and they just waited? Or could it also be that theory wherein many of those who were going to participate in these elections or vote for Trump didn't participate in many of those polls? Could that be part of the reason why the polls got it wrong?
Look, Chamberlain, when you say you are polling, you're looking at 200 million people who are going to vote.
That's a lot.
Yes, which is the number that voted. How many people do you really poll? So the polls have to be always taken with a pinch of salt. Also, in this election, as in many elections, people may tell you one thing and do the other. Donald Trump made comments that made him quite unpopular, particularly...
Is it from those watching from a distance?
No. Generally. Even people who supported him would not tell you publicly that they supported him because it is not popular to do so. So many people were polled and did not tell the truth. Some were not polled and they didn't want to be polled. So the polls got it wrong, but I always say this, if you look at it carefully, I was on radio the day of the election throughout, from 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. And we're monitoring this, and the first thing I said, this is before the results started coming in at all. I was there with somebody else who was so sure that Clinton was going to win. And I told him, I said, look, there is no guarantee that Clinton is going to win. Anybody can win this race because it is what the American people want. And Donald Trump was speaking to the heart of America. The truth, bitter truth, not popular. One, when he said that he was going to deal with illegal immigrants, not all immigrants. Therefore, what you saw coming out at the election was legal immigrants who themselves don't want illegal immigrants from their countries voted for him. It's incredible.
But then isn't there a tendency, pardon me to butt in, isn't there a tendency for people to also look at the legal immigrants or paint them in the same brush? Because, I mean, before the man on the street will look at you and think and figure out whether you're legal or not, he first thinks you're illegal.
You know, before I answer that, I think because that speaks to another aspect of this whole election. People are afraid that now that Trump is president, they have to be afraid. No. You see, Trump went after issues that were real to people. What was the problem with Obamacare? Popular as it appears to be, it's good you want insurance for people. 20 million people are on the policy now. However, the premium keeps going up. In some places as high as 25%. Those places now said, we don't want Obamacare, but Obamacare is very popular. The president's popularity rating is like 60%. They don't want to appear to be going against the popular president. So they kept quiet. On election day, they voted against Obamacare. You know, so again, the same thing with the question of illegal immigrants. Let me tell you. American system is such that whoever becomes president is going to be compelled to follow some rules. The campaign is a lot of talk. What you can do when you are president is the reality. And he is going to realize that there are many things. You can just say, we are going to throw out the arrangement with Iran. No, it is not dependent on one man. This is not a monarchy. So if you are a legal immigrant, there is nothing anybody can do to you. America is a land of immigrants. He himself is a descendant of immigrants. So therefore, any legal immigrant does not have to be afraid of Trump. It doesn't matter what people think. Who's going to say, look at you as if there's a problem? Everybody is an immigrant, so it's not a major problem, really.
Mark?
I think there's a joke going around certain platforms on, what you can do and can't do as U.S. president. But then, you already acknowledged that this was a vote against the establishment, against the system, as it were. Do you think that people have a genuine understanding of this? Is this as a result of a lack of understanding of, the system? Or do you think that the system has really been unfair to American citizens?
The system has failed people. Let me tell you why. Unemployment in the United States is blamed by people generally in the United States on illegal immigration. Illegal immigrants will take half of what the legal person would accept. So illegal immigrants come in and take the jobs and undermine the progress of the nation. That's the reality. And for that reason, people feel that the system, the government as it is now, that is encouraging immigration, is actually endangering their economic welfare. You see? Now, talk about Washington votes, for instance, in the Midwest. You know what happened there? This is the reason why they voted for Trump. They are going to vote, and at the same time they are collecting food basket. They are unemployed. The industries have gone in the Midwest and in a lot of the United States. So people have been losing jobs. That's why the blue-collar workers in the masses voted for Trump, because he promised that he's going to bring back the jobs, which the establishment, so to say, has not been able to do. That's why they were voting against the establishment. They're voting against the establishment because it's appearing more and more that globalization and multiculturalism is actually undermining their own quality of life. And that's what they're protesting against.
I think Mark was going to follow up on that one. Mark?
How much of a difference do you think that he will be able to make as a president, working within some of the rules in the system?
Well, Trump is a businessman, and he wants to get results. And I think he knows this. He knows that there's a system, a structure in place that he cannot just replace because he's president. So he will learn very quickly the ropes in Washington, as he does all over the world where he does business. And I think he would, because look, he's talking about revitalizing the economy. One of the things he wants to do is to invest in infrastructure, building bridges, roads, and so on in the country. That will create a lot of jobs. So if he is able to do this, and he will get support from the Senate to do it, and it will be a success. But don't forget, the Senate as you have it now and the House of Reps are both controlled, the Congress and the Senate are both controlled by Republicans. But these are not Republicans of the ilk of Donald Trump. So there's going to be checks and balances even within that system. But I think if he is, his rhetoric is what has made Trump so unpopular. The way he says things, people get the impression. Isn't that
changing? I mean, after victory,
you notice that he has changed. That he's more mellow. That he's more inclusive. If he does what he says he's going to do now, be inclusive and respectful of other people's opinion and positions, and understand that he cannot walk alone, I think he would be successful.
But it was amazing how he flew out of the blocks when the elections, when the exit polls began, and Clinton was behind almost everywhere. Where do you think they got it wrong, the Democratic camp?